Hello and welcome back to another video here on AshTalksBall. It's already game week 3 of the EFL Championship season. This season is absolutely flying by. We've had some Cups fixtures as well in the midweek to keep us going, but this weekend, back to the Championship, a game on Friday night and then a whole slew of games on Saturday. Some really interesting games I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into this week, and some interesting predictions. There's been so much chaos to start the Championship season. Some results have been absolutely crazy you just did not see coming, which will be evident with my review, which we'll do in a second, of how I did in game week 2. But it's been a super exciting start of the Championship season, and I think it's going to be a real good season going forward. So before we get into the game week 3 predictions, let's have a quick look back and see how I did with my game week 2 predictions. So I was hoping for an upturn in my fortunes after my awful game week 1, and I got a little bit. I got my first bang on score with Watford and Wrexham drawing 1-1, so it's good to get my first bang on the board. However, the rest of the fixtures were pretty much the same as the first week, where I only got 2 other points. So 5 points, not exactly what I'm looking for, but like I said earlier, there's so many upset results. I don't think many people would have seen Charlton going to West Ham and getting the win. I was a bit disappointed with some of the outcomes. I did actually say in my predictions video that I was wanting to flip the Middlesbrough 2, Blackburn 1 score, which would have been a bang on if I'd have done it. And also Southampton scored a stoppage time third to stop my prediction. It's a Southampton Stoke being bang on. So it could have been a few more points. I'll take my 5 points and move on. But really hope for a better week in game week 3. And there's some really interesting fixtures. So let's just get into it. Game week 3 for the Championship. Let's predict. So we kick things off on Friday night with Sky Sports' favourite game, and that is Wrexham hosting Birmingham. These two teams are always going to be intrinsically linked, it looks like, with their rise from when they got promoted from League One together. They both showed a huge amount of ambition trying to get out of the Championship, the first hurdle. Both fell short, and they're in the Championship again this season, and they've both actually had very similar starts. They've both drawn their 2 opening games, so no wins yet, but reasons for optimism for both teams. We'll start with Wrexham. Wrexham just couldn't hold on to the final day to beat Cardiff, and then they will be disappointed with the draw at home to Watford. They really will be feeling that they should have more than just 2 points right now. They get another opportunity here at home, back-to-back home games for Wrexham in a big game on Sky Sports Friday night. The world will be watching, especially over in America. So they'll be hoping to get a big home win to real kickstart their season. Birmingham with a draw at Sheffield United, and then rescuing a 2-2 draw against Bristol City. Again, they all feel like they probably should have had more points. They were the better team against Sheffield United, so they would have been disappointed not to pick up a win at Bramall Lane. And then it was a real interesting game in their first home game of the season, drawn 2-2. A real special Don Ballack goal in that one. So will these teams really draw 3 games in a row? I'll go with yes. I'm going to go for a tight, narrow game. Both teams will be going to go for it. There could be more goals than this. I'm going to go for 1-1. If I was going to leave one way or the other, I probably would lean the home side. Wrexham have shown they're a bit more solid at the back than Birmingham at this time being, I believe. But Birmingham have shown they're not going to be any pushovers. There's still time in the transfer window. This is the last game before the transfer window shuts. So take the points where you can and then see where you are after the transfer window. But I'm going to go for Wrexham 1, Birmingham 1 to kick off the weekend on Friday night. We move on to the Saturday early kickoffs, and we start at Pride Park for Derby hosting Swansea City. Derby have had a disappointing start of the season. Obviously, I was really high on Derby to start the season. I did fully expect them to get into the playoffs, and with my belief of John Eustace, I thought they were going to be ready to go pretty much straight away. Really disappointing defeat on the opening day to Charlton. The result isn't looking as bad after last week's result. We'll get to Charlton momentarily. But then a real disappointing home draw against Cardiff. So only getting 1 point against 2 teams who I did predict to finish in the bottom 4 of the table. A real poor start for Derby, especially with the heights that I was expecting to hit. So they really need to get their season going. Obviously, they did lose in the first round of the Carabao Cup to Lincoln at home as well. So a real poor start for Derby, and I expect better from them coming up. An interesting fixture for me, obviously, against Swansea, because Swansea were one of my biggest shouts of the video. I did expect them to get into the playoffs, and they have had a pretty good start to the season. The win at Stoke was a great start. They will be disappointed with the 0-0 draw at home to Sheffield United. With the vibes going around Sheffield United and Swansea's normally being very good at home, they would have expected to win that game, I'm pretty sure. So they'll be disappointed to only take a point. But 4 points from the opening 6 is a real good start for Swansea. Derby needs to quickly start picking up results. Obviously, after 3 weeks, it's not going to define your season. But if you're slow to kickstart, the momentum could be slow to begin. And then you're playing catch up, and that's never good. This one was a real tight one. I was going to go for a draw, but I'm going to pick a winner here. I think Swansea might nick this game. This would mean a real poor start for Derby, not winning any of their 3 games. I'll go for a 2-1 Swansea win here. This would be back-to-back away wins for Swansea, which would be absolutely massive when I said that the crux of their promotion push would come at home. So to get back-to-back away wins would be absolutely monumental for Swansea. And 7 points out of 9, you couldn't ask for much more than that. So I'll go for Derby 1, Swansea 2, Swansea to continue their positive start, and Derby really need to get going soon. Off to the Riverside we go for Middlesbrough hosting West Brom. Real disappointing weekend for Middlesbrough last weekend at Blackburn. They had a real good first half. They got a good goal from Sarmiento, but Tony Mowbray, he is a very good manager. Maybe I didn't put enough thought into that when I was doing my pre-season predictions. Tony Mowbray knows how to set his teams up. But a real good second half from Blackburn. They turn it around and they really deserve the win. So after a positive start to the season, Middlesbrough have a little blip. I still do think the power of Middlesbrough transfer window will come through. I still think that they did really dominate the transfer window. And once all the signings are integrated and comfortable, Middlesbrough should be a lot stronger. West Brom, amazing start for them. Back-to-back wins. A win at Carrow Road and a win at home to Burnley, just relegated from the Premiership, who had just held West Ham to a draw. 6 points from 6. West Brom could not have asked for a better start. James Morrison has continued exactly where he left off, and a real impressive performance against Burnley, and they were fully deserved winners. This one's going to be a tight game. Both teams are good defensively. Middlesbrough did have a couple of dodgy defender moments. It did cost them against Blackburn, but overall I think they're a really strong defence. And since Morrison has come in at West Brom, his teams have been real hard to break down, and they do not concede many goals. I'm going to go for the home team here just to get the job done. A narrow 1-0 win. A real important game for Middlesbrough here to get the bad taste of that loss to Blackburn out of their mouths. West Brom, I'm sure they'd take a point here. If you'd offer them right now, 7 points from 9 would be fantastic. I think it's going to be a stretch too far to go 3 from 3. So I'll go for Middlesbrough 1, West Brom 0, 2 good, solid teams, and an interesting fixture where Middlesbrough just sneak it. And the final lunchtime kickoff of the day is Wolves hosting Stoke City. Wolves back on track after their disappointing opening day draw. They beat Preston. It was a good time to play Preston. Preston's had a real disastrous start to the season, and it does sound like things might be getting a little bit worse before they get better. We'll get on to Preston shortly. But an impressive win for Wolves with a couple of good goals in there. Their manager does clearly have a style of play that he wants, and once that's fully integrated, I think Wolves will be very hard to stop. Stoke with a loss to Southampton. That's going to be a fate that befalls many teams, so they don't need to lose too much heart. Back-to-back defeats, 0 points after 2. Obviously not what you're looking for, but they're starting to get their business done. George Hurst is in. He made his debut last week. Ben Johnson is also in from Ipswich on loan at right back to go along with the signings that they did make earlier in the season. So it has come to pass, like I said in my prediction video, that Stoke are going to have a slow start. But they've got to hope that the second part of that prediction comes through too, which is that Stoke in a few months will be a lot better than the Stoke that we're currently seeing. It's going to be a tough task. Obviously, the Wolves are going to want to get a home win after drawing on the opening day against Blackburn. So it's a real tricky spot for Stoke, and I think it's going to be 3 defeats from 3. I'm going to go for a comfortable 3-1 Wolves win. I haven't seen quite enough from Wolves yet to say they're going to keep a clean sheet. So it should be a relatively comfortable win for Wolves here. Their attacking options are really insane at this level with Jimenez, Armstrong and their wingers that they have on either sides. So a comfortable win for Wolves here. So I'll go for Wolves 3, Stoke 1. Wolves with their first home win of the season, and Stoke struggling, still looking for their first point. On to the Saturday 3 o'clocks, and there's 8 Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs this week. No late game, no Sunday games. So we're going to Ewood Park for Blackburn versus QPR. 2 of the teams with the most positive starts so far this season. Blackburn might be the story of the Championship so far. Widely predicted to be relegated pretty comfortably, including by me, and they've had 2 fantastic results to start the season. The draw on the opening day at Molineux, in which a game that they probably should have won, and then a home win against Middlesbrough at Ewood Park. Just a fantastic start. 4 points out of those 2 ridiculously hard on paper fixtures. Blackburn fans have got to be feeling super positive about where the team is. Mowbray has shown he's got a control of this team. He's being tactically flexible and adapting, which you can see from the second half performance against Middlesbrough, where it completely turned on a sixpence. QPR on 4 points, a fantastic opening day win at Fratton Park, but they will be disappointed with a home 0-0 against Bolton. They absolutely dominated the game, they just could not get that goal. Bolton are proving they're going to be a solid defensive test for most oppositions, but QPR with their attacking players would have thought they could have got 1 goal. So they'll be disappointed with that 0-0. But 4 points from 6 is a real good start for QPR. Both teams are going to be feeling positive, and both teams are going to be thinking that they can win this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here, a good consolidating draw for both teams. Blackburn will probably feel like they can win any home game right now after that performance against Middlesbrough, but QPR are a good solid team who are coming in with good momentum, also with 4 points from 6. So I think it's going to be a pretty tricky fixture, and I think a point each will be pretty well deserved and be happy with. So I will go for Blackburn 1, QPR 1, and a good point to keep both these teams moving in the right direction. Staying in Lancashire, we now have Bolton against Lincoln. Like I said in the last segment, Bolton are proving they're going to have a good solid defensive foundation to build on for this season, which should give them a real good floor, especially in their home games. It doesn't look like they're going to concede a lot of goals, so that will mean they're going to be in most games. And when you're in most games in the Championship, you never know what's going to happen. They would have been absolutely delighted with that 0-0 draw at QPR. They're also on 4 points out of 6. And with a home game against Lincoln, who are struggling, they're really going to be looking to push on. Middlesbrough away was always going to be tricky. They nearly got a point, but they conceded late. A real disappointing home defeat to Portsmouth. Their first Championship home game, the atmosphere was always going to be good. Portsmouth struck a bit cold with a couple of good goals, and then once it got to 3-1, there's no way back for Lincoln. So they'd have been awfully disappointed to lose that game. They now go to Bolton, a team who they did come up with from League One last season, and obviously Lincoln were clearly the best team in the division in League One last season. A lot has changed since then, obviously with the whole manager situation. So I think Lincoln are going to try and make things difficult for Bolton here. They're going to want to get their first point on the board, and I think they're going to fight to keep this game tight, close and in front of them. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw here. This will frustrate Bolton, who will feel like they should be able to win this game, but they're coming up against a Lincoln team who I think will be very happy with a point, and I've got them taking it. So we'll go for Bolton 0, Lincoln 0, another good defensive performance for Bolton, just not being able to get the winner, and Lincoln with their first point on the board in the Championship. Next up, we have Bristol City hosting Portsmouth. Bristol City got their first point on the board last week with a 2-2 draw against Birmingham at St Andrews. Fantastic goal from Don Ballard. That might be goal of the season tied up after week 2. So some definite positive signs for Bristol City there. It looks like their attacking players are starting to bed in, and hopefully Skabala's ideas are starting to be a bit more implemented, and Bristol City can get moving after a tough start, which was that home defeat to Millwall. Portsmouth with a really crucial win at Lincoln. After that really poor home display against QPR on the opening day, they really needed to get a win in what will on paper be one of the most winnable away fixtures of the season, and they went and got the job done. 3 goals, a good performance, and they should have something to build off here. But Ashton Gate is never an easy place to go to, and they really need to get a win on their home patch in front of their home fans to really kickstart their season and to build on from that impressive point at Birmingham. So I'm going to go for Bristol City to get their first win of the season. I'll go for Bristol City to win 2-1 here. Portsmouth will be disappointed not to be able to build on the back of that impressive win at Lincoln. But back-to-back away trips in the Championship is never easy. Bristol City back at home, really needing that first win. I think that motivation will get them through. And the attacking players that they have brought in, along with Twine coming back into the side, which was a huge boost for them, I think Bristol City will get the job done. So I'll go for a hard-fought Bristol City 2, Portsmouth 1, and a real good win for Bristol City to get their season up and running. We head to the Welsh capital now for Cardiff against Sheffield United. Another game between two teams who have drawn both of their games so far this season. Cardiff with the huge high of getting the draw against Wrexham in stoppage time, and a real good draw on the road at Derby. So I think Cardiff can feel like they're in a pretty good place right now. They're proving difficult to beat. They're scoring goals. So I think they'll be pretty happy with their return of 2 points from 2 relatively tricky games. Sheffield United, obviously we spoke last video about how the vibes are not great there, but they showed their character. They showed their fight for Chris Wilder with a good 0-0 draw at Swansea City. So that's quite funny how it works out. 2 trips in a week for Wales for the Sheffield United fans. So fair play to the fans making both trips. But they have shown some desire, and as I've said all season, they do have so much Championship quality. The floor is not going to fall out here. So I think this is a game between 2 teams who do think that they should be able to win this game. Cardiff, the home team, who have shown they're going to be difficult to beat and can be dangerous going forward. Against Sheffield United, who have the Championship nous, the manager with all the Championship experience in the world, and a pretty talented squad for this level. So both teams will think they can win this. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Again, this means both teams will have drawn all 3 games, but this is a pretty tricky one to call. It could go either way. I would not be shocked if either team wins this game. If I had to pick one side, I probably would go Sheffield United. But it's going to be a hard-fought game, and I think it'll be a pretty good game to watch. So I'll go for Cardiff 1, Sheffield United 1, both teams ticking along nicely. On to the other surprise package so far of the Championship season, and that is Charlton, who host Preston at the Valley. Charlton, 6 points from 6, absolutely incredible. I'm pretty sure about 0% of the Championship YouTube community would have had Charlton having 6 points when you consider that their 2 games have been Derby, who I've predicted for the playoffs, and then also West Ham away. What a result, just an absolute crazy result, and a deserved result at that. A 2-0 lead. Obviously, the missed penalty is a little bit of fortune, but man, did they deserve it. An absolutely fantastic win, one that their fans will be talking about for a long time. I am totally sure of that. Absolutely fantastic win for Charlton. That is the type of win that you can really build momentum off, and I know Nathan Jones, he will have no fear about using that victory to push his team on, to push his fans on, and they have a real chance of going from 2 wins out of 2 to 3 wins out of 3, because they welcome Preston to the Valley, and if Charlton is full of positive vibes, Preston is probably full of negative vibes. The Soldiers March, who's gone to Genoa, so Arabi is pretty much their only number 9 at the moment, and it's difficult to see where the goals are going to come from. And more surprisingly, under Heckingbottom, they are conceding way too many goals as well. That's probably more worrying than the lack of goals and the lack of strikers, is the fact that they're just struggling to keep people out, and that is going to be real worrying for a team like Preston, who do rely on being hard to beat, being organised. That's what Heckingbottom will be disappointed with, and it's hard to see where the results are going to come from at the moment. Obviously, there's only a few days left of the transfer window. They need to get some stuff done. I don't know how much they're going to be able to get done, but I'm getting really worried for Preston. So I'll go for a comfortable Charlton win here. I'll go for 2-0. Charlton in Dreamland, 3 wins from 3. This would put them top of the Championship table. But I can't really see any other outcome at the moment after the first couple of weeks of the fixtures and how both teams are looking currently. So I'll go for Charlton 2, Preston 0, Charlton in Dreamland, and Preston looking for where the first points are coming from. We head to Carrow Road to another team who is looking for their first point of the season, and that is Norwich, who host Burnley. A tough start for Norwich. I was really expecting them to get off to a real fast start, considering they had most of their squad back together. They had Clement, a manager who they were really happy with, and they had such a good end to the season last season. I thought Norwich were in prime condition to make a real fast start to the season, but a home defeat to West Brom, and then a real calamity against Millwall. There's no shame losing to Millwall at the Den. Millwall are one of the stronger, most consistent teams in the Championship so far this season. A lot of teams are going to lose to the Den, and a lot of the teams will go under like Norwich did. So there's no harm in that. But the fact that it didn't really look competitive, Millwall had other chances to score. The red card for Cordoba was obviously real bad news for Norwich. That means he'll be missing this game, and that will not help with what looks to be a relatively fragile Norwich defence that has been in action so far this season. Burnley coming in off a real disappointing defeat against West Brom. Zian Fleming was not in the squad. The manager did say it was due to injury, but the rumour mill is starting to pick up with rumours with Fleming interesting teams in both the Premiership and abroad. So I'd be very shocked if Fleming will be here throughout the transfer window. Burnley's business has already been delayed through the manager search. They've made a couple of nice additions at centre-back. Obviously, Max Lane is a good signing, but there's still plenty to do for Burnley and not much time to do it. And if you're losing your talisman this late into the window, that's not ideal. But they still do have attacking talent, as do Norwich, and both teams have proven they're pretty shaky at the back so far this season. So I'm going to go for goals. I'm going to go for my first bonus point of the season. I'm going to go for Norwich to win this game 3-2. So a super exciting game for the neutrals, and a real impressive way for Norwich to get their season up and running with a home win against a relegated side. This would leave Burnley on 1 point out of 3 games, which came against West Ham, funnily enough. So a real disastrous start from them. And with only a few days left in the transfer window, this is a huge week for Burnley. So I'll go for Norwich 3, Burnley 2, an exciting game, and Norwich up and running. Down to the South Coast we go for probably the most intriguing fixture of the Championship weekend, and that is Southampton hosting Millwall at St Mary's. I did ask for a response from Southampton after their really disappointing opening day loss to Watford, and they did get the win at home to Stoke, but it wasn't the most dominant of performances. They did rely on late goals. There was a lot of huff and puff, but there was a real lack of quality, I thought. And for a team who is mostly together from last season with the same manager, I was expecting a lot more intensity and quality early on in the season of Southampton. But they did get the win, and it is a sign of a good team when you win when you're not playing your best. Obviously, Harwood Bellis was not involved. It's hard to see that he will stay throughout the transfer window when Aston Villa, who are playing Champions League football, are in for him. So I do expect Harwood Bellis to leave, and there's not long for Southampton to replace him. So a big week for Southampton to see if they can shore up that defence. But 2 home games in a week, they've already got the first win, and now they need to move on to second. But it's going to be a real tricky fixture because they are hosting Millwall, who have been one of the stronger teams to start so far this season. Back-to-back wins, no goals conceded, really efficient, effective attack and play, and looking very solid at the back. I can only say positive things about Millwall so far. They have been so impressive. Probably the most impressive team of the Championship so far. And this is with one of their better players, Kramer, out injured. Aziz was left out of the matchday squad last week. So even though these road bumps are coming in the road, Millwall are going over them. And you've got to say that's probably down to Alex Neil, who is just a fantastic manager at this level. And he has his Millwall side ready to go. This is going to be a difficult fixture for them without a shadow of a doubt. Southampton are probably going to be a dominant team at home this season. But Southampton's start hasn't been that impressive. So I'm going to go for a Millwall win here. I'm going to go for Millwall going 3 out of 3. I'm going to go for Southampton 0, Millwall 1. Millwall to continue just their efficient, effective start to the season. Disappointing defeat for Southampton, who'll still be on minus points after this result. They were fully expecting to be out of the minus points after 3 games, but that's not how it's worked out. They just haven't hit their stride yet, and they're coming up against a good Millwall side here. So I'll go for Southampton 0, Millwall 1, and a real flex of the muscles for Millwall. And for the final prediction of the week, we head to Vicarage Road, where Watford host West Ham. Watford 4 points from 6, so a real impressive start to the season. The win against Southampton at home was very impressive, and then a good draw away at Wrexham, so their fans should be pretty happy with their start. Not quite sure what happened in midweek in the Carabao Cup, losing 5-1 at home to League One Peterborough. Not quite sure what happened there. I haven't really looked into it. It's just a very shocking scoreline. So a storyline to watch here. Was it just an anomaly? Was it a one-off? Let's wait and see. But a real tricky game coming up next for them because they're going to be facing a very angry West Ham side. West Ham, 1 point from 2 games, completely off script. 2-0 up on the opening day against Burnley with 10 minutes to go, only to get a point. And then an absolute shocker of a defeat at home to Charlton. They're being linked with so many impressive Championship players. Obviously, Adam Prue is huge. He's guaranteed goals for the Championship and he's already got off the mark for the club. There's going to be some major exits as well. It looks like Juve is going to go to Brentford. So it's going to be a very few days for West Ham with both ins and outs in the transfer market. They really need the window shut. They need to know what they've got and what they can build with. They're going to be the most talented squad in the division no matter what, but they are going to be everyone's big fixture. They're going to have a target on their back that everyone's coming for them. And on the first 2 games of the season, that's been proven, and they haven't stood up to the task yet. But I've got them getting their first win of the season. I've got them winning 2-0 here. West Ham just needs to flex their muscles at some point, and Watford coming off a real weird result in midweek. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. So this is a real opportunity for West Ham to get going and finally get their Championship promotion push going. So I'm going to go for Watford 0, West Ham 2. West Ham finally up and running on the 3rd attempt. So there we go. Those are my predictions for game week 3 of the EFL Championship season. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. We'll see if we keep getting these crazy results that seem to be happening every week. But I need to get some points on the board. 2 points, then 5 points. That's not good enough. Let's see if I can get some more points next week. So as always, thanks for watching. I am really loving making these prediction videos every week for you. And as always, thanks for talking ball with me, and I'll see you next time.